But just let me clarify that, the Chinese airplane that we've seen crossing, what we call the ADIZ is slightly different from the airspace definitions. But yes, these parts of, what Taipei has been calling, the gray zone tactic, which is aimed to pop it and enhance the Taiwan air defense. And we've been seeing these Chinese airplane coming over, near to the Taiwan airspace actually for the past couple of years already, especially after last year, the policy visits. This, Chinese airplane has more likely to become like, the new normal, especially in the past couple of weeks. We've seen, quite a few Chinese airplane, coming over to Taiwan's airspace. And actually, these actually raised the concerns about, the defense. And actually, the Taiwan's defense minister has said that, the military would take countermeasure if these Chinese airplanes entered Taiwan's, the official airspace and or, the tourist waters.
Yeah. Taipei has decided to extend its annual air raid and evacuation drills next week. What do you make of that?
So yeah, these are really, interesting move to be observed from Taipei. In the past, this air raid drills is more or like, just having people, staying out of the streets, for maybe about half an hour. But this year, actually, it was from last year that, Taiwan has been taking up this level of the preparedness, trying to evacuate people, to shelters. And this time, the government extended the scale of the drills to 22 districts of Taiwan's neighborhood, the city. So it's not just, parts of a small neighborhood, but actually district across Taiwan's trying to do this. So this is something that the government have seen, especially after, the war in Ukraine, and also, pressure coming from the outside, China to push Taiwan to, do better with, its civil defense preparedness.
Interesting. The war in Ukraine has been an interesting one because many people say, well, China's watching what happens with Russia, what happens in Ukraine, how much international pushback there is. You've spent some time trying to get a sense of how this war in Ukraine is impacting the views of Taiwanese. What have you learned?
Yeah, these are really great questions. So, Taiwan's also watching the war in Ukraine very closely. But, there has been two different, quite, construct takeaways. One is that, of course, nobody, like to see what happened on their homeland. So some of the takeaway would be, they tried to de-escalate the tension as much as possible. That could mean, some compromises. But on the other hand, the willingness of Ukraine to fight for their country is also some, really, great inspirations for some Taiwanese here. They've learned that, the kind of tactics or even strategies, with all the military weapons, but I think more importantly, one of the great takeaway for those who said they've learned from the Ukraine is their willingness to fight. So we've seen quite a few civil organizations have been trying to train people on from the very basic things such as a disaster response. Also, some of them are also trying to ramp up their knowledge about the kind of threats that facing Taiwan. So yeah, the societies has quite a diverse response or take away from even from the single event like the war in Ukraine and Taiwan, which is kind of interesting to observe.
So being prepared to defend Taiwan. Of course, there's an election next year. How's it informing people's opinions in terms of what sort of government they're going to want to vote in?
Yeah, so yeah, especially with, when things comes to like elections, gonna be quite, tricky for the government to handle issue like that. So, I mean, traditionally, cross-strait issues is one of the key topic that will be debated in any presidential and national elections, especially with this year that people have seen what's happened to Ukraine. And I mean, war and peace, this is going to be something that even voters in Taiwan would have to discuss that in the upcoming elections. And different presidential candidates also have, expressed their views, especially when it comes to, how to handle its relations with Beijing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of the key issues to be seen a lot as we get closer to the elections.
And, and the current president has been very, very clear on Taiwan's independence. What are the candidates looking like ahead of next year's elections?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, the vice president, Lai, is known as, traditionally known as someone who more assertive, in the, holding the Taiwan independence view, especially because of, his really notable comments, describing himself as a pragmatic Taiwan independence worker. But, since he announced his candidacy, he's trying to move a bit, to more moderate positions, trying to maintain, the China policy that President Tsai had been doing for the past 7 years. So far, he's been trying to make a lot of efforts trying to assert, people that, he will be maintaining the same routes as President Tsai. And so far, he's leading in most of the. Actually, he's leading in the public opinion vote so far. But because I mean the election results always really difficult to predict. So things could happen in the last minute. So I think we have to watch closely to call the results.
Yeah, interesting. Good to talk, Joyu. Thanks so much.
Thank you.